Hey everybody, we've got an exciting new episode today. We've got our very second interview with Rise of Leo.
Sorry I'm late, man. I know.
What's going on here?
You might have forgotten to tell you that we had an interview today.
Very nice.
Yeah, so you gotta go. Are you kidding me? I just walked into that.
I know, but it is what it is.
I Ubered.
We'll figure it out later. We'll hang out after, all right? But
What
right now, we're going to do it.
Two guys, same person.
with Rise of Leo. And I'll see you after.
All right, bye.
Really simple. So we'll start with this. What is your name and where are you from?
I'm Jay Sanchez, or you can call me Leo, and I am originally born in Houston, Texas, but I tend to claim Chicago.
Excellent. Smart.
Yeah. My cousins were also born in Houston, and they claim Chicago.
Okay.
It's boring over there, so sorry to all the Texas people. But you know.
So born in Texas. How old were you when you moved up here?
So I moved back and forth a couple times, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when I was a baby, my mom had moved me over here to do schooling, and then we ended up moving back over there, to be with my dad.
Yeah.
And then we ended up moving back to Chicago some time after that. And then I ended up moving back to Houston to live with my dad. So my parents are separated.
Okay.
They separated somewhere between that timeline. And so I wanted to live with my dad, kind of build a relationship with him. So I started high school over there. And then that was a mistake. So I finished high school over here.
Okay.
Then I went back over there for college because I guess I didn't learn my lesson the first time.
Right.
And then, but I was studying acting at the time.
Cool.
And then came back over here, changed my major to music, and been here ever since.
Where'd you graduate?
Harold Washington.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm a Columbia kid myself.
Nice.
Well, that covers my next question. What were the earlier years like? When did music become your leading hobby? And then when did that hobby transform into Rise of Leo now?
Oh, man. I've always been into music ever since I was a kid. My mom is also a musician. In fact, like her side of the family are all musicians. So I'm from Hispanic descent, and my mom and family, they play like traditional mariachi music.
Totally.
And so I got the music gene from them, but was very exposed to music very early on in my life. And my grandfather wanted me to join the band ever since I was a little kid. He's always talked about it, just wanting me to join. So very early on, I was implemented into mariachi music, just listening to it. And my uncles were the first ones to like kind of teach me how to play guitar.
Yeah.
And my grandfather wanted me to teach the violin. But I kind of just stuck with guitar.
Of course.
But then eventually I became like the black sheep of the family because I got really into to rock.
Yep.
So growing up in the early 2000s, I got really into pop punk. And then my dad listened to like a lot of 90s grunge. So,
ooh, good mix.
So that was like the influence on me. But I started learning guitar more like in 6th grade.
Okay.
That's when I got my first guitar and started playing it more. And then I kind of fell off, actually. I was on and off for a while. Yeah.
Right, in school.
So school.
We do the band thing? Like school band and marching
so
band?
No, actually, I was getting into acting, so that's how that started.
Yeah, okay.
So I did acting in high school, but I also so I was still keeping up with guitar and everything. I had that, but I feel like when you're young, you always have a dream of like, oh, I want to be in Hollywood or
Something, yeah.
I, want to be in a band, with my friends or
Absolutely.
just
Something
be
big,
famous,
big dreams.
yeah. But I feel like music, being in a band just stuck with me all those years until I finally decided to try it out.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen until like later in life, like in college, when I started making that shift of like still staying in the arts, obviously.
Yeah, creative.
But that's when I started slowly making that shift from like acting to no, I want to play live music on stage. That's how I want to perform. You know what I mean? So then when I moved back, I decided to study music. That's how I met a lot of my music friends that are in the scene, even still. And that's just how we started, and I had been writing music since middle school, like lyrics, music, little bit of both.
Coming out was coming out.
Pretty much.
I get that.
And so I had like, these little songs, just kind of whatever.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like the songs that I wrote never were intended to like be released or anything like that.
You were just doing it. It was an organic, creative process.
Pretty much. And I had written a song on like my ukulele for my ex.
Oh, yeah.
And like my friend group were always supportive of like me playing.
For sure.
Right? But when, I played this song for her, she was just like, that sounds like a real song. Like that's amazing. It doesn't sound.
That sounds real.
It doesn't sound like some. Yeah, I don't know, some cliche to where like making little songs where like, yeah, it's great. Like thanks. It's very cringy, but thanks.
Dude, okay.
And so that was cool. That was kind of, I guess, my first moment to where it's like, I could do something with that. Like if I can play something that I wrote and make people like not want to,
like, oh, actually, yeah, I like that. Okay.
Like not want to like cover their ears,
right? Dude, that's a massive confidence boost. On my end, I would always write a song and then have it halfway done, and it took my friends being like, "Finish the song or we're done listening." And I'm like, "All right," So it's even just somebody saying something like that sounds like a real song. Can switch it and just be like, oh, this is just what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. That's excellent. Since we're here, what was the first album you bought with your own money?
Ooh, the first album.
It doesn't have to be a physical album. It could iTunes. I know it was the early 2000s, but
probably. Oh man, it was either American Idiot or
that's a good one.
Or 21st Century Breakdown, also by Green Day.
Yeah. But it was a Green Day album. Was your first album?
It was a Green Day album. That was my first album, correct? Yes,
dude.
And that's actually one of my biggest influences in music. So when I was younger, American Idiot had came out when I was like in elementary school, back in 04?
Yeah.
04? Yeah. So again, my dad would listen to like rock alt station, and that's all I listened to was rock and alt growing up. And a lot of the songs that I heard were, the hits from American Idiot.
Yep.
Yeah, American Idiot, Boulevard, Broken Dreams, Holiday.
It was a massive album.
Yeah. And that just kind of stuck with me. And then I watched Bullet in a Bible. Which is their live show.
Oh, I was there. I graduated high school in 06. I was there for it. It was excellent.
And that changed my life and perspective of performance. Watching that was just, seeing them perform on stage, their stage presence, Billy Joe just running
the best
back and forth on the stage, just their demeanor. It was like, it was so different. Like the music was there, but it was a performance, like,
they've always been that way. Even when they kind of popped onto the scene, they were musical punk. It was new, right?
Yeah.
Pop punk was, I don't want to say invented because that's not how music works, but basically they were the
like the forerunners.
Dude, Dookie was 10 years before American Idiot. That's it. So they were young, they were fast, they were awesome, and they constantly, I don't want to say they would reinvent themselves, but there was a new Green Day every time they drop an album, which was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So watching that was just like that. I want to be that.
Yeah.
And that has stuck with me ever since. Actually, a lot of my stage presence comes from that movie.
That makes sense. I'm going to skip a couple questions because where is right here? There was a show. I caught you at book club.
Yes.
And there was a moment in when you were kind of addressing the crowd, and you were like, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, you know, if you're feeling marginalized, if you're whatever, you're here with us, you fit in, you're great, whatever. And then you were like, you were leading into the song Nobody Wants You, I
yes.
think. It was hilarious. You were like, but not this song. The song's called Nobody Wants You, but I don't mean it. But my question is there something, do you find that music connects people and you're into that, or are you looking to connect people through music? Like, are you trying to reach people?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
I would say a little bit of both. Because a lot of the music that I listen to growing up, you know, I feel kind of like an outsider.
For sure.
So music was my getaway. Music was how I was able to communicate, you know, like, growing up in adolescence is not easy. You got a lot of emotions. Correct. That you have no idea what's going on.
Yep.
So that was kind of how I was able to convey what I was feeling.
Yeah.
Is just, hey, listen to this, you'll understand what I'm going through right now. You know what I mean? And that's where a lot of, I guess, my music derives from, is just what I'm feeling in that moment, how it may relate to a broader audience, or you know, just a bigger audience, because we're all going through something, right? Positive, negative, whatever. It's like someone's bound to relate, you know. So that's kind of just what I do when it comes to writing music. Is just like how am I feeling? How is this going to make somebody else feel? Can I relate to you? If so, this is how I go through these things. This is how I've been able to cope, or this is how I felt when you know, I was happy. Yeah, probably feel the same way. If you do, then you're definitely gonna like what I'm about to talk about. You know what I mean?
It makes sense getting a little backstory, knowing that you were bouncing between Chicago and Texas, two polar opposite places. That it's a little deep in therapy almost, but it's, you know, not having a solidified, oh, these have been my friends every day, right?
Yeah.
I'm moving here, I'm doing this, I'm going there. So having any concert be a place where you feel like you're at home, that definitely sounds like you, because you were like, I loved your stage presence and the way that you were basically like, if anybody is in this room and you're feeling left out, you're wrong. And I love that, because some bands just want to get loaded and have a great time, which is fine. I don't care. Motley Crue, do what you want. But I caught on to that, and I really enjoyed that. So with your own music, do you write on your own, or do you prefer, you know, the more collaborative, hey man, bring over your bass, let's figure something out?
So with this project, Rise of Leo, I do write most of the music, and I do like it that way, just because it's like, again, it's my thoughts, my feelings.
Yeah, no, this is what I'm saying. Right.
So this is what I want to convey. This is how I want to convey it. You know, not that I'm opposed to like a collaborative.
For sure,
you know.
Somebody plays a bass line funny, and you're like, actually,
yeah. Actually, fun fact, for therapy, you know. Nikki, who is typically my guitarist for live shows, one day in practice, she just ended up arpeggiating the chord for the second verse, and I was like, whoa, I like that. It's like a little different, and there's a change,
nice.
You know, as opposed to the beginning where it's just her. I feel like it really complemented everything else that was going on. So I was like, we're keeping that. You know, so, you know, moments like that. Yeah. But even in the last band I was a part of, you know, the last we heard, I was predominantly the songwriter of everything. And before we ended up breaking up, the next project that we wanted to work on, we did want it to be a little bit more collaborative. The only reason why it kind of worked out that way was because COVID happened, right?
Yep.
We were essentially a COVID band. Our first show got canceled because it was the weekend that the world shut down, basically. Right? So all I was able to do was just write, and that's kind of why that happened. But once shows were picking up and places were opening and things like that, we did kind of sit down and start working on things together. It depends on the dynamic of the band and kind of what everyone expects. But since this is like like my solo act, like my baby, like I created this, it is essentially just me running it.
Do you start on guitar, I'm assuming, usually, being a guitar player?
Sometimes. There have been songs where the bass came first. Like Nobody Wants You. Nobody Wants You was a bass-driven song first.
Do you have any instrument that you... and I guess the normal drums, bass, guitar, maybe keyboards or vocals, anything that you might shy away from more than the others? For me personally, it would be like vocals. You can sit me behind any instrument and I'll jam, but as soon as I start singing, like, how are you behind a drum set? Do you feel comfortable back there? Or
I mean, I could do basic beats. I'm not a technical drummer. I don't consider myself a drummer at all.
That.
I can count to 4. So
that makes sense. I mean, somebody will start with an instrument and you'll hand like your drummer a guitar and then they just like forget music.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when somebody's writing all of their own stuff because there's inevitably something like if you're like, I really want a cello in here, but I can't play cello and I don't have $1,000 to buy one, right? Or I can use this little keyboard thing. You got to fill that gap somehow. So that can be challenging. Does it help you grow as a musician almost to be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, but you have to come up with it?
I haven't found myself in that situation yet. Well, I will say, I guess more recently, with writing everything now, a lot of improvisation for like solos and stuff. I'm not the most technical guitarist, especially when it comes to coming up with something. Right. You know what I mean? So
running scales all day in your room,
right?
Ready at any time.
So that's been a fun challenge for me, because all the solos that you hear in the songs, like I have written, with the exception of Nobody Wants You, that was written prior.
Okay,
but it's a challenge and it helps me grow as a musician and a guitarist.
Yeah.
So that's been a fun experience for myself. But in terms of I guess wanting to add an instrument or a part that like a drum part that I may hear, I haven't really come to that problem.
Okay.
But also I have a drummer who writes all the drum parts.
Oh, cool.
So
good. No, that's smart. That's really smart. You had mentioned solos. Do you prefer like a written solo, like an Avenged Sevenfold, this is what it is every time? Or do you like maybe like more of a Metallica, like this is what it's like on the album, but you'll never hear that again?
I'm a perfectionist.
So you like a written
I come
solo.
down to detail. Yeah. So
Okay.
I like it written down. If it's supposed to be played that way, like
that's how it's supposed to be.
It's structured that way. Like that's something I can follow. My brain can latch onto that idea. But as soon as you let it loose, let it be free, it does not know what to do. You know what I mean?
All right. What is your dream lineup? And feel free to put yourself in or out of it.
I would love to open for Green Day one day.
Yeah?
That's like a huge dream of mine.
Sick, yep.
But if I were to have like a dream lineup, oh man, that's hard. There's just so many good bands.
Well, Green Day's on there.
Green Day's on there,
Yep.
yeah, for sure, absolutely. Blink-182 probably.
Okay, so you're Warp Tour 07. Something
Yeah,
like
that
a bunch of Chuck Taylors and pop punks and Gibsons.
Yeah, pretty
Hell
much.
yeah.
But I throw Linkin Park in there just for fun. That
Dude.
was I actually grew up on Menace to Midnight.
That
I
makes
love that
sense.
album.
Now I miss Chester.
Yeah.
I'm not usually affected by.
I was on my way to work and they played it on the radio, the news, and I was just like, I need to sit in a parking lot for like a good minute.
Which
or
was
two.
wild to me. I was a grown man, and this was some celebrity I liked, right? But
Right.
he was so uniquely tied to these kinds of struggles, like I was mentioning with your stage presence of like if you're here, we're here, and we're okay. Okay, this one's a hard question for me. Let's chat gear. Is it?
It's it's another retail corporate job, but it had its benefits because that discount, I tell you, I miss it every single day. That discount was it was good.
Yes. Anybody, if you find somebody who's working at a Zounds or a Sweetwater, always be nice to them. Those discounts are insane. Is it as I don't mean to talk about Guitar Center this much, but is it as annoying as I would imagine, where somebody comes and plays all the guitars, or is it actually it's like a music store? Like, it's cool.
It can get very noisy.
Is it bad?
Yeah. You have like some people playing the guitar out of tune while somebody's banging on a drum set,
out of tune. Right.
So, but then you do have those customers that come in that love to talk about the gear there, and I love to talk about music, and they'll talk to you about your music. That's how I met some of the people in the scene.
Yeah.
Some people that were like, "Oh my God, you make music? Like, where? Show me," and they're like, "Oh, this is so cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out." Or people who've come to the store, who have gone to like my shows.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends. Like I said, it's a retail job that has to do with instruments. So you get your days of weird people, and your days of just like, you made my day a little better, or so it kind of just depends.
That'd be wild. I've been thinking about music stores, and there's one right up the road here called Rare Birds, and like I think the cheapest thing there was like $6,000. They're one of those small stores with like, this was the first guitar ever built, and I'm like, okay. But just to learn gear, because it's so much, just not, if you're not that kind of a person, I'm like, I don't know what strings. What do you mean gauge strings? Turns out they get bigger or smaller. I didn't fucking know that. So that's if you're struggling with gear, work at a Guitar Center or something. That'll help you.
Well, actually, I learned a lot of my gear or about gear from people that I played with, not just in my own group,
Really?
but like other bands that I played with. It's just like, oh, that looks cool, or that tone sounded cool. How did you do that?
I've noticed that it's just like friends. I would always look at a rock scene and I'm like, they're all so cool, and they're in bands, and then you get into it and you're like, oh, these are all just buddies, and they've all played together at some point, and they know this person, and they're sharing gear and pedals, and it's so much more of a party. I mentioned, we were chatting before we were recording, Ricky Liontones, who we'll see next week. He recently played a show down at the Forge in Joliet, and he opened for LA Guns, which is the Guns of Guns N' Roses, and I was mentioning to him that I was surprised all the other bands were great, because I was there to like cheer on Ricky, and he's just like, no, that's not how this works. We're all just partying, right? There is no winner. And if somebody's working that hard, they're kind of a jerk, and they're big number one by themselves, which is like, if you want to do that, go for it. I'm not gonna opine it, but this is just a big party, and I every time I'm starting to see more and more of that. You literally working at a Guitar Center, but the other bands and friends are the ones that walk you through all the gear and all the technical difficulties.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned like it's all just one big party of friends.
Yeah.
So the book club show, right? That you first saw me, Antillion. Mm-hmm. Quick shout out to Antillion.
Definitely.
Everyone's down to earth. Met them for the first time that night.
Genuine? I thought you guys would have known each other.
No. Well, I knew their name. I've seen them around social media, that they played a couple shows with other people that I know.
Totally.
But it was awesome because, and it happens like this to a degree with every band that I play with, every band that I meet. But it was awesome because Mike, lead singer of Antillion, we were kind of chatting on Instagram every time that we promoted the show, commenting on each other's posts or whatever. And then he shows up, before doors open, sees me. He's like, "Hey, Leo! Oh my God, what's up, homie?" And as if we've been best friends for like 5-10 years, and it's awesome. And it really is like that with a lot of the bands in this scene. So like the Chicago scene is full of
It's incredibly positive.
love. Yeah.
You know, I'm not originally from the city. I've been here about 10 years. And then even then, I guess just I remember a lot of the music scene from the 90s and how like shit talky it could have been, right? And fuck these guys and they're not cool. Slayer, man, which is a little bit still cool and funny, but genuinely people are they all just want everybody to win. And I thought I was the weird one wanting to be like an Adam Sandler where I would go on TV, but not to like be me on TV. I would go on TV to like promote all of you guys, right? I'll be the face, I'll be the idiot, but I don't want to do it just for me. That's lame. And then finding out that the entire community is almost like that was, God, life-saving. Because we're coming out of COVID, right? We're coming past Game of Thrones, pandemic, incest, murder, rape everywhere. And then all of a sudden everybody's like, hey, you got a guitar pick? I'm like, I love you forever. So yeah, I can't speak to more, I can't speak too much more. Or hold on, I'll edit that out. I can't speak any more highly of the positivity of the scene. So that leads me actually into the physical logistics of doing all of this, getting places, getting your gear there, when you first started, did you already have experience with these other bands on like how to email a venue? Or did you kind of just fail upwards as like, I don't know how to do it. Like, can I play at your show? How'd you get into the logistics of making it all happen?
Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've gotten really lucky, but really I just let my curiosity take over, you know. Okay. People that I knew, I was already in the scene, you know, established to some degree. Yeah. As minuscule as I was, but I knew people already, you know. So before the other band I was a part of, the last we heard, I wasn't in charge of booking. Okay. I didn't have to worry about that at all. So I didn't know how we got shows. It was just like, hey, can we play this day? I was just like, check the calendar. Sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm free. Cool. And that was the extent of me booking shows. Yeah, it was just like, I just got to show up and play. So when doing Rise of Leo and everything falling on me, it was just like, oh, where do I start? How do I do this? It was very overwhelming. So
what'd you do?
I just asked. I asked questions. I was like, hey, to bands that I already knew, bands that were like making their way up in the scene or even further, or people that I already knew who like had booking experience. It was just like, hey, how did you do this? What do you do? Any advice? And you know, everyone who I asked had something to say, and so I just pieced all those things together. Yep. And just, you know, threw myself out there and hoped for the best, you know. It's crazy because just with that, you know, I was able to book Cobra Lounge within the first like 2 months of playing live shows. Yeah. And it was great. That was our first show of 2024. Awesome night. Got to play with great bands. Just from me booking, you know. And I'm still learning as I go,
of course, but
I have a better idea of what to do, what to say, kind of thing. I guess, not that anybody asked, but advice on booking, at least here in Chicago.
Yeah, I will, yeah.
Find at least 1 or 2 bands that would be down to play. Yep. Like a time frame, doesn't have to be an exact date, but you know, just like, hey, I'm looking to book somewhere around this time. Would you be available? Can I like kind of use your name to ask, you know, other venues, you know, just to have some idea of like what the bill would look like or whatever. Yep. That advice was actually given to me from another band guy I know. Band guy. Dude I know in another band.
No, I like it.
And that has worked out. Also just asking, you know, like in advance, just like I have shows booked from here to here, looking onward. asking venues, do you have any days available?
That's a good idea.
And then, either yes or nay. I know some people get ignored out there a lot. I don't know. I've just been fortunate to be able to get a response, but that's basically what I did and what I've been doing, and it's been working. So,
how's your email game? Did you have like a first couple of emails where you were like written back and read it, or did you take some skills from like some regular day job where you were just like, dear sir or madam, you know what I mean?
I guess
it seems
like English class, but
because they gotta be emailed by a million randos a day, right?
For sure.
So if they can't read it, if it's in pink Comic Sans, if it's what I mean, if they're like, bruh, can I play? I'm not gonna answer to bruh, most likely.
Yeah, be professional, be respectful, be kind. That's how I've done. Like, hey, my name's XYZ.
Yeah.
I'm a part of this project.
This is what I'm looking for.
I'm looking to book here now. Do you have any availability? Would love to work with you. Hope to hear from you soon. Thank you. Blah, 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 blah. Don't get a response. That's happened. I just, emailed you a little earlier. Still haven't gotten a response. Would love to hear from you. Yeah, just a follow up. Just wanted to follow up. Hope everything's well. Blah, 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 blah. Yep. Thank you, XYZ.
Yeah.
And I don't know. This has been...
Have you gotten more opportunities through reaching out to a venue or through reaching out to other bands and being like, or even somebody reaching out to you, hey, I've got a spot on Thursday, what are you doing?
A little bit of both.
Yeah?
A little bit of both. So mostly just booking myself. I mean, I've been booking since September and, been booked in advance. Like, we have shows way into, like, June.
Yeah.
And getting ready to book onward, so it never stops. But in between that, sometimes we'll get out, like the book club show. Antillian asked us to hop on.
For free, hell yeah.
Yeah, we played Wisconsin because we were asked to hop on.
Oh, that's cool.
And because of that, we're playing Wisconsin again in the summer. So, it's just, I don't know, being approachable, being
normal human. You seem like a guy that doesn't get in your own way a lot. Like overthinking and being like, how do I email? What do I say? What do I do? Because you're like, can I play at your stage that you built?
Yeah,
right.
And
I personally, I can get in my own way a lot and overthinking email. Right.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Like I definitely I will reread an email like 5 times, not change a thing, but still like, no, there's something there that needs to be changed. Like there's something wrong.
So, okay, being self-critical, that almost sounds like a skill you picked up in music, right? Being able to call yourself out, be like, you can do that better. You can do that solo a little tighter.
Definitely. I feel like I've just been that way in anything that I'm passionate about. I'm also competitive, so I like being the best. Not that I'm saying I am the best.
I get you,
but I know that there's someone better than me. And so what can I do to reach that level and then exceed it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've always been that way. I've been that way awesome. With school. I've been that way with music, with acting, anything that I was passionate about. Just how do I get better with what I want to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Outside of music, what are your big passions and inspirations, and do they feed into your music? Like experiences or skydiving, and you know what I mean? Something.
Yeah, just I don't know. I like skateboarding. I'm not good at it, but I do it.
Okay.
I like video games. Things like that. As far as like inspirational, I don't know. A lot of my inspiration is just from what I do, I guess.
With your writing and your booking and your performing and you're doing it all, it's almost no time for anything else, especially video games anymore. Those 90-hour Final Fantasies are gone.
Yeah.
We don't have time for that anymore, but okay.
Speaking of that, it's very hard to want to pick up a controller because I
totally
every day it's just like, oh, I want to play something, but then it's just like, but it's like I can't. I feel like writing. I can't justify it. Yeah, and it's hard, but it keeps me leveled, I guess. Yeah. You know what I mean? Keeps me disciplined.
Do you have a hard time turning off, like the music and the creating and the letting yourself escape into a video game for an evening? without being like, I should go practice guitar.
Yeah,
send an email. Or,
it is very hard. Actually, it's a lot of my day is just what can I be doing today to progress myself, whether that's practicing, writing, learning new songs that already exist.
Totally.
Ear training, things like that. Something that can inspire me. I don't know. Like apart from this, I'm also a part of 2 other projects.
Okay.
So
what are your other projects?
So I'm a part of a band called Almost There But Not Really. They've been in the scene for a while.
Okay.
I wasn't there in the beginning. Joined late last year.
Nice.
But we played a couple shows together, and I knew the guys already. So when they were looking,
pretty easy fit.
I was just like, hey, I'd be down if you want me.
Cool.
And they were like, yeah, sure. Like let's bring you into a practice. Let's jam around, see what happens. And the rest is history. You know, we were already friends before, and now, that just grew. We're great friends now. Mm-hmm. And then the other project, actually, so my guitarist that I mentioned earlier, Nikki, she writes music as well.
Okay.
So she asked me to be her lead guitarist in her project. So I'm doing that as well, and we're actually playing our first show together March 6th at the Burlington.
Excellent.
So that's very exciting. But yeah, so it's just, with that being said, it's hard to justify outside outside of music, because it's not just my stuff, It's somebody else is relying on me to put in the work, get the work done, and I take that seriously. I don't like disappointing my teammates. That's how I view them. I view them as teammates,
Totally.
friends.
Yep.
And so I just kind of just
your head deep. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean, though? I want to say in over your head, because that denotes, like you're out of control, but you're in this thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What is just an interesting side question? What is your actively in the Rise of Leo? What is your oldest song that you're performing?
Nobody Wants You.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is 3-4 years now.
Yeah, that one's on Spotify right now, right?
Yes, that one is on Spotify. That was the first single that released last June, I want to say. Yeah. So that originally was actually a Last We Heard song, or the Last We Heard song.
Okay.
And I just brought it over because people knew that song.
Yep.
From playing in the Last We Heard, and I wrote that through quarantine. I wrote all the parts, but I still asked the guys. I was like, hey, would you be okay with this? And they're like, yeah, you wrote it, who cares?
All right, man, final question here. If music wasn't a thing, what else do you think you'd be doing?
Probably stick with the acting.
Yeah,
or even, okay, to dive away from the arts, probably be like an engineer somewhere.
Really?
Yeah.
You good at math?
Yeah, I was good at math and science in
cool.
school. I loved math. I loved numbers.
Yeah.
I loved discovering things in science. So engineering was kind of the pathway that was put on me.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, you have a brain to be able to do these things. So become an engineer. It'd be good for you. The money's great. Blah 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 blah. And I was like, okay, I do enjoy it. I guess I am good at it. It makes sense, but now, there was always
enough.
there was just always, I don't know, an artistic itch that just needed to be scratched, I guess.
There's a band called The Deer Hunter. You ever heard of them? Lead singer's name is Casey Crescenzo.
That name sounds familiar.
I'll send it to you, because separately he has started his own guitar creation studio, and I immediately was thinking, with an engineering background and the ability to tinker and figure all that stuff out, I'd buy a Rise of Leo signature guitar. All right, so what's up next? Rise of Leo, you said you were playing with somebody else on May 6th. What shows you got coming up for Rise of Leo?
So that show's happening March 6th.
6th.
That's
so that show's happening
Nikki.
March 6th.
But as far as Rise of Leo goes, we're playing March 15th at the book club again.
Excellent.
We may have another March show, not sure at the time of this recording. That's still being talked about, so we don't know yet.
Okay.
But, follow the socials. And
I'll link them in the description.
So we have March 15th. Then after that, April 12th is going to be at Reggie's.
Nice,
and then Reggie's. May 18th is still being worked out, but it is for sure. We're playing at Backyard 606.
Hey.
And then June, that's when we go to Wisconsin. We have another show kind of in the works right now, but again, at the time of recording, it's not fully established yet. So.
You've learned booking. You're doing it, man. That's excellent, man. Leo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
If you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. Check us out, akaRyan.com. I've got stuff about our podcast, stuff about my music. If you're still here, why? Go listen to Rise of Leo. He's on Spotify. It's awesome. Go see him soon. You just heard about his dates. Come on, check it out. Get to it. See you next time.